Hello guys, and welcome back to the second episode of Spilt Milk. Well, today I'm going to talk about something that is very important to me and something that I have lived with for my whole life. I think it's very important to talk about personal conditions that shape you as a human being and set more awareness to things that are maybe not talked about a lot, especially in the media, social media, and just day-to-day life. I think you should be proud of who you are, what you are, and you're so unique from everybody. Everybody's so different. So what is it? Well, I have a genetic condition called Neruofibromatosis. It's a bit of a waffle one, but on short terms I got NF type 1. So basically, neurofibromatosis is a group of 3 genetically distinct disorders that cause tumours to grow on the nervous system. These non-cancerous tumours, they begin supporting cells that make up the nerve and this membrane that envelopes to protect the nerve. So basically, these non-cancerous tumours, they grow on the nerve and the protection of your nerves. Rather than cells transmitting information, the type of tumours develops depending on the cells involved. Depends on the tumour, depends how it develops and responds to it. So scientists have classified, there's different types of neurofibromatosis, different levels and different things that can grow out of having this condition. So basically I've got, as I said, type 1. So it's also called Recklinghausen disease. I cannot say it for the life of me, but that's what it's called. And there's type 2. So there's type 1 and there's type 2. It's estimated that in America about 100,000 people have this disorder, and it all comes in sexist, racist. It doesn't matter who you are. There's a 50-50 chance basically that this disorder will develop. It can develop, it's genetic, but it can develop from anywhere really. So yes, these are tumours, but they are mostly non-cancerous, and unfortunately they can become cancerous. It's not known why these tumours occur on the nerve system. Scientists and doctors who specialise in this field don't really know why they come. So lucky for me, they just tell me they're there and they don't, that's it. I just have to live with it. But they do play a key part in the genes, the mutations in the genes. So as I said, the doctors don't know what the tumor, why the tumor's there, but they know they play key roles in the growth on the nervous system. They are identifiable. NF1's identifiable to NF2, and they're identifiable from making normal proteins that control your cell production. So basically, without the normal function of these proteins, the cells multiply out of control and form tumours. So basically, that's what happens. The proteins can't control themselves, and the cells just multiply, and then they form into tumours. Non-cancerous tumours. Sometimes, as I said, unfortunately, cancerous tumours. So NF1 is basically the most common neurofibromatosis in people if they have it. So it occurs in 1 in 3,000 to 4,000 births. This is in the United States. My research, although many affected people inherit it. So basically it is 50-50 inherited from either both parents or either set of parents. So if your mum has the disorder, I don't like calling it a disorder, because personally I find it a bad word, disorder. I think there's quite a a very funny look on disorders, like a disorder. Like, it's not a disorder, I just have it. It's just part of me. It's never done me any harm. So it's not a disorder. So sometimes between 30 and 50% do have a spontaneous genetic mutation. So 50%, 30% of these people who have NF1 have it spontaneously. So their parents don't have it, and it just randomly comes up like dyslexia. And then if they randomly get it, obviously that can be passed down to future generation and future children. And it might skip a generation. It's kind of a bit random. It kind of does what it wants when it wants. You can't, like, if I had a child, my child could not get it, but their great-grandchild could get it, if that makes sense. Like, it's in my family. What are the signs and the symptoms of NF1? So basically, I'm an trained expert on NF1. I know what I have. I think it is different for obviously every single person, but I do know the general bits and bobs and inside out. Basically, you're meant to have 6 or more. I have bloody tons. I honestly have bloody tons of these things. Brown light marks on your body. They're usually quite big, so they're measuring more than 5 millimeters. So yeah, it basically is a birthmark. Well, it's not a birthmark at the end of the day. So they're called café au lait. So au lait. It's quite a nice name if you think about it, because it's like café au lait. It's not like a not very nice name. So I've always got people being like, oh, I've never noticed it. But then you get people like, oh yeah, like it's like you've tanned one part of your hand. They would be like, like, what is that? Like, people are so offended by something different. Honestly, I don't understand. It's just a mark. It isn't going to cause you any harm. But basically, yeah, they're like light brown spots all over your body, measuring more than 5 millimeters in diameter. So isn't diameter width? It can be both, apparently. Sorry. I have them all over my body, you know. I am very identifiable if anything shall happen to me. So that's one way of identifying type 1. And yes, I've had them ever since I was born. I think they've got darker and I've got more, and they've progressed, or they've got lighter in some areas, but I've had them ever since I was born. 2 or more neurofibromas, so they're like lumps, like on your skin, so they're on the nerves. So usually like a tumor is not inside, so like it grows on your nerves, so you obviously can see it. So I have a couple on my fingers. They're not noticeable, only I can notice them really, and on a little one on my back. They don't really get in the way of anything. I mean, if they grow, like I had one on the back of my head when I was younger, and it was growing, and it was just very nice. I just got that removed when I was a child. They just sliced it off, I guess, you know. You also have like a freckling area in the armpit or in the groin area. I do have in the armpit area, I shall say. There is a difference between freckling and my mark. So there is a distinctive difference. Like freckling, I like freckles, and these marks are café au lait marks. Are very distinctive. Not all of these symptoms and signs are like what I have. Obviously, as I said, it is different to everyone. Some people can 2 or more growths on the iris of the eye. I can't say the name what it's known as. I cannot say it for the life of me, but you know if you have it. There's 2 or more growths on the iris of the eye, so it's on the colour. I don't have this, but there's obviously some people out there who do. There's also a tumour on the optic nerve, so-called a nerve glioma. I personally haven't experienced this. There's also, you can get abnormal development of the spine, so scoliosis. So I do have a slight curve in my spine, so I do suffer from scoliosis. They only really found it when I was 18, which is really weird because they're meant to see it when you're growing, and obviously I stopped growing at the age of 18. And one day I went to the hospital, and they checked me over like they usually do, and they were like, oh, your spine is slightly curved, and you can see it on my back. Like, it's very distinctive, curved, and I'm okay. There's no need to worry. I just have to go and get it checked and x-rayed like once a year. One of my parents has it, but they're all good. So there is other symptoms. I mean, there's crazy amount of symptoms that can occur in someone who suffers with neurofibromas type 1. So it also can affect your language skills, your visual skills, your academic skills. Personally, I felt that with my numeric skills, but everything else, I'm completely fine. I've always had a normal childhood. I'm literally in the same position as anybody else does without NF, or if they have anything else. And this is why I wanted to talk about it on my podcast, because I think it's important to set awareness, because no one knows what neurofibromas is unless you suffer with it, or you maybe know someone because you maybe have heard of it. It's not funded. It's, even though 1 in 5,000 people, which is small, there's no cure to it. People can suffer really bad. There's type 2, which can have more problematic symptoms for people, but there's no money. There's loads of specialist doctors that are trying to find out new ways for how to overcome these symptoms and how the worst sufferers to have a normal, happy life. But there's not enough. So I really do think that if I have a platform, I can talk about this, because it is who I am. We need to set more awareness about it. So the prognosis for someone with NF is a progressive disorder. So basically what progressive means, it can deteriorate over time, so it can get worse. Although basically like a small amount of people do remain constant, and I've been pretty constant. It isn't possible to predict it because there's not enough research. So how can you predict the disorder when there's not enough research on it, because there's not enough funding for it? Basically, you can't really treat it. Like, it's not a cold. You can't take paracetamol and get better. It's a lifelong threatening thing. They don't know how to prevent the tumours from growing. They can just remove it, but they can't be like, yeah, we'll put you on these tablets and it will prevent from growing. You know, sometimes they can't remove it either. If it's too large, they just can't move it because it might be unsafe. If tumours do become cancerous, you can have radiation, chemotherapy and surgery. So you can correct some bone structures, like you can go in for spinal surgery for scoliosis if it got too painful, if it got worse or got inconvenience. They can't really do anything. They can just like control it, and they can relieve any pain that you might have. So a lot of people suffer with headaches, but they can just relieve the pain. They can't really like get away with your headaches. So I'm not an expert, but there is another symptom called NF2. So this affects about 1 in 25,000 people. So approximately 50% of the people do inherit this type. Again, it's similar in others. It's just random, spontaneous. So the hallmark found in NF2 is the presence in slow-growing tumours on the 8 cranial nerves. They grow usually on the cranial. So there's 2 branches, the acoustic branch, which helps people hear, and the vestibular branch, sorry for my pronunciation, so maintain their balance. So it is very different to type 1. It is quite more serious. So I won't talk about NF2 because I'm not an expert on that, but it is a thing. It's just another branch of the disorder. So if you have it and you're pregnant with a baby, or if your husband, boyfriend, partner has it, you can get a parental test to see what the chances are for your children getting it. So I really wanted to make this episode just to set awareness, just so if any of you listen to this, you know about this, and you'll be like, yes, I know about this. When you read it, you might retweet a tweet about it, just so we can get more awareness about it. There's not enough awareness out there. There's not enough funding. There's an amazing charity called Neuro Foundation, which does so much fundraising, so much research, just trying to tackle this thing, trying to come up with ways to make people's lives better, the quality of life better. So it's really important to me and important to my family. So really, this was flying solo today, so it was very factual. So thank you for listening. I really do appreciate it on this video, and yeah, I can't wait for the next episode of Spilt Milk.